All right, all right. Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and whatever time it is, wherever you are. But the Millionaire Ladies Mob are live tonight. Tonight, we're sending out prayers to our sister, Queen Aaliyah, and she has to take care of some family business, so she's not here tonight. But you better believe she will be back next week. We are talking about living your life insurance. Living your life insurance. We're not talking about death today. We're talking about life. And I am here. I'm Carmen Bernard. We're here every Thursday to bring you educational information about your finances. I have Miss Saran Baker here with me tonight. Saran, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Hey everybody, it's me, your girl Saran, back in the building. We're live. I'm so excited to be here. I am your girl Saran, covered by Saran. I am with Carmen. We're financial experts, and we all provide, in our own little special way, a loving way to protect, provide, and level up your finances, as well as support you with health insurance and other amazing things. My favorite thing is to get people out of debt. And so tonight we're going to be talking about some ways you can live your life insurance, because it is life insurance, not death insurance. And so we're excited to come to you with some new and exciting news that will matter and will be beneficial to you, your friends, and your family.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's say good night. Good night, H. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. If you are listening, if you come in tonight, please say hello to us. Sometimes we're not able to see the comments, but you better believe we will respond later. Also, if you're listening to us on the replay, please hit hashtag replay. Listen, what we do, anyone can do. And we want people to join us. So if you'd like to join us, we teach you everything that you need to know. Send us an email at millionaireLadiesMob@gmail.com. Or just go to millionaireLadiesMob.com. All right, so we want you to breathe a little easier with living benefits.
But you know,
Uh,
we got to give H a shout out. He's there, his son's there, everybody's listening. So, hey, Chandler, hey, H. And looks like H is in your town in ATL.
what, H? You're here. You need to take me out to lunch.
Oh, there you go. Lunch. And on the Millionaire Ladies Mob, you also get lunch. Lunch dates with your
that's,
colleagues.
that's right. That's right. Good night, Chandler. Welcome to the Millionaire Ladies Mob show here on Thursday Night Live. So we have talked about living benefits before. I think it makes sense. Ooh, I just got lunch, guys. I think it makes sense for us to go back over living benefits and have people understand what is living benefits, period. Like, you
Right, right,
know,
right.
so I think it makes sense for us to do that. Can you talk a little bit about living benefits? A lot of people are running around talking about your life if your life insurance has living benefits, but there's more to it. So let's talk about the overall. What does living benefits, what does that have to do with your life insurance?
Well, one of the things that's important to know is that there are things that can happen in our lives that can be worse than death, right? They say disability is worse than death. And a lot of times, most of us have the misunderstanding or the misbelief that our health insurance is enough and that it will cover all that we need. And also, being experts in health insurance, we know that most health insurance is only going to cover to about 60 to 80% of the cost, but it also doesn't cover what we call living expenses, right? And so when you start talking about living benefits, some of the living benefits, and I'm going to use the technical terms because I don't want people to be misled or misunderstood. So the technical term for living benefits or living benefits riders that we talk about, one is called terminal illness. Then there's critical illness. Then there's chronic illness. Then there's critical injury. And tonight we're going to talk about two brand new ones right? The Alzheimer's, let me say it right. Look, I got it right here. I want to say the words right. The Alzheimer's disease and Lewy body dementia, and drum roll, the new fertility journey rider. So we're excited about that and what that means for our women and our families for our future. So I don't know about you, Carmen, but we got like six awesome living benefit riders. I want to start with the new ones. What about you?
Well, you know what? I agree that you should start with the new ones. However, I want to say this: we partner, number one, with some very strong insurance companies, and although I am not going to say the name of the insurance company tonight, I want to let you know that the one of the strongest insurance companies when it comes to these living benefits rider, one that has led the market, um with living benefits, does it again, strikes again. We have always been out front. We've always been out front. I keep looking at the monitor. I really do need to look at the camera. That way I don't look like if I'm looking away. But we've always led when it came to living benefits, right? As you heard Saran talk about, there's one called terminal benefits. You have some insurance companies right now that will, or some agents that will talk about living benefits, but they really only have that one terminal, the terminal illness rider. And it's not that that's bad, but there's something even better. There's some that have just two, right? Just the terminal illness and the chronic illness. And we're going to tell you what that actually means in a moment. But we want to make sure you understand that when someone says, "Oh, get this policy because we have living benefits," does not necessarily tell you exactly what it covers. So what some companies may cover one, some companies may cover two, some companies may cover three. We have been covering four of them for years, and now, dun, 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 we've added two more. And Saran is so excited. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Saran talk about which one you want to talk about first.
I want to talk about the fertility journey rider.
So let's
And I'm excited. And the reason I'm excited about this is a woman of a certain age, and y'all mind your business how old I am, right? But as a woman of a certain age, you know, a lot of our women, I have friends that I can see on my social media and things like that, and they're having babies in their 40s and some in their 50s, you know, early 40s, late 40s, almost 50. They're having babies because they're going through the fertility process. And it can be a very challenging process. Not that I know it firsthand, but I know people have gone through it, right? But the thing is that it's also a financial burden because all those treatments cost and those dollars add up quickly, and you're really just trying to bring another amazing life into the world that you can nurture as a mom and a dad with, you know, with your co-parent. And the thing is that this new rider is going to be a part of every new policy issued, no matter what. So you don't even need to think you need it. It's already going to be a built-in feature. And some of the things that it just includes support for that process of becoming a new parent in the fertility journey. And here's the deal. Here's some statistics for you. Many couples, about 1 in 7, have trouble conceiving. It's just a fact. It's just one of those things, right? And the cost of fertility treatments are skyrocketing. They are very high. And the stress of trying to get pregnant and get money to pay for fertility, it can adversely affect your ability to become impregnated, right? And so this fertility journey rider, what it does is it provides a lump sum accumulation value credit that you can use to pay towards your fertility journey, right? And it is available regardless of any type of risk classification, and that's an insurance technical term. But it's regardless of, as long as your policy was issued after the date the rider became effective, you, my friend, have availability for this, and it's no additional charge. You just have to be my client or Carmen's client or Leah's client, and you get it. I don't know about you, but that to me is a huge win for our women and parenthood, and for those who are really just, loving and amazing individuals bringing more life into the world. And I'm just so excited about that. I mean, I'm going to talk about it again on Monday. That's how excited I am about it. Like, literally, I'm going to just redo this whole thing on Monday. But
Well,
the thing is that you just don't know what you don't know. I mean, and we have friends and we have colleagues, and you know them, and they work really hard. Maybe they got married late, or they decided, later in life to have kids. They waited until they were super stable, but that cost of fertility can kind of tap into those funds that you created. And so you shouldn't be penalized for just trying to do the natural thing that for women, at least, we're able to do with our bodies.
I mean, I hear your excitement and I agree with it. And I think you should continue to talk about it because listen. Sometimes people hear, but they don't hear, or they hear and they're not focusing. They didn't pay enough attention. How many times I've said something to someone several times over the years, and then they come back and tell me the same thing, and I'm like, wait, I've been telling you that. Wait, really? You told me that? So yes, we are going to talk about this. This is super exciting for not just for women, but just for couples, for partners who really and truly want to have children, but chose to put it off until later, and then ran into the problem of not being able to conceive, because it just happens that as you get older, not for everybody, but it becomes a little bit harder. And the thing about it is that now you don't have to choose, right?
Mhm.
People, you've seen it, you hear women talk about it. I'm not ready for children. And everybody's like, well, what happens. I mean, it is so bad that if you're 35 and older, they call the pregnancy a geriatric pregnancy,
Right.
right? And so it just brings a whole lot of not just stress, but judgment and things to women and to couples out there that are trying to do. But now they don't have to do it if they are unable to conceive naturally, quote unquote. Now there's a way to be able to pay for that, because as Saran said, that is so very expensive. So yes, talk about it. Talk about it today. Talk about it tomorrow. Talk about it next week. We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep talking about living benefits in any case, because I don't think that it's truly getting through to people what it is that we're providing for them. I really don't think so,
Yeah.
because um we are so um conditioned to think about life insurance as death insurance, and that it's only for death. But it's not only for death. And now it's really, really, really about life, bringing
Mhm.
new life. Who doesn't love black babies? We do. Well, it works for everybody, but you don't have to be black, but everybody. But we love babies. So yes, I agree for you to keep yelling and talking about it. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I'm not a yeller, so you're gonna get
Well,
what you get. But
I'm definitely a yeller in a good way. I get excited. That's all. That's all. I just want everybody to know my biggest, and I think you've heard me say this time and time before. I do not want to have someone who's come in contact with me to say later on, I wish I knew, not about any information that I knew about and was able to pass on. So
yeah.
there you have it. This company, and you'll see us post on our social media about it. in which company it is. They are awesome. They've been in business for 176 years or longer. And
Mhm.
so the strength of the company is phenomenal. And then to turn around and add something like this at no additional cost is really super awesome
Oh
for
yeah,
our people
absolutely.
out there, right? So they also added another one, which has to do with, I'm not sure that there are many families that have not been affected by this, or they know someone who's been affected by Alzheimer's, right?
Mhm.
I know we call it, some people say Alzheimer's or old timers, and the correct term is Alzheimer's. And but we know someone, and what is even tougher is that it's affecting even younger people.
Yeah,
And yes, it's affecting younger and younger people. My aunt, she died, God rest her soul, but she I asked her about a family member of ours, and she was like, I don't want to go there because I don't want to catch the Alzheimer's. Like, Auntie, you cannot catch this, Auntie. You cannot catch it. She was like, I'm not taking any chances. So, and I say that because just
that's
about
terrible.
every one of you out there know of someone or read or heard about someone who's been affected by Alzheimer's. It's a debilitating disease that really and truly takes away from the quality of life, and not just from the person, but from their caregivers, right? And I know, Saranda, you can speak about that personally, you know. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about this amazing company that brings us another amazing benefit, another amazing living benefit? What's the other new one?
So the new one is the Alzheimer's disease with Lewy body dementia. And for those who don't know, the disease is called the long goodbye because you literally are watching your loved one diminish from the person you knew them as they go through a very slow process of transitioning. And it is a heavy burden, and I have family members affected by it right now, and it's not easy for the family, the caregivers, the person, and to go through but it also is a financial challenge for those who don't have it, because when you think about it, if you're not young, and I know here where I live in Prince George's County, we had one of our county executives, his wife had Alzheimer's in her 40s. And this was a
Wow.
few years ago. She, when he was in office, I can't remember the year. It wasn't too long ago. Um, and it was one of those things where she started in her 40s. And I believe the restaurant owner, her name is not coming to my mind right now, but B. Smith, she also um, got it really early because she wrote a book too, I think when she found out, called Before I Forget or something like that, in reference to it. But it takes a toll because when you get into, and when you're older and you get into the senior market and the senior care, there's so many expenses and there's so many catches. And one of the things that kind of it bothers me is that, you know, in the time in our lives when we're the oldest, when our cognitive ability is not the sharpest, we have to make the hardest and toughest decisions of our lives, including financial decisions. We have to go through complicated processes as far as Social Security, complicated processes as far as our retirement, our taxes, Medicare, going through the different parts, trying to figure out what's the best one for you, all the different costs, the additional taxes. It just, to me, is a tough thing that, we get 70 and 80. We have to make these decisions when, due to no fault of our own, our cognitive abilities have just changed. We're just not as sharp as we used to be. And this helps, this helps families who are going with it. And there are families who do have the finances. And what people don't know is a lot of elders, they have to sell off all their assets to get assistance from Social Security or any type of governmental assistance or things like that. You literally have to, if you had assets, you have to spend them down to about, I think it's $2,500. And I believe it varies by state, but that's a tough thing if you have already built up, you have a house, you have a car, just basic things that you wouldn't consider to be a lot of assets, but you
Right.
can have those in order to get assistance. And so something like this, a rider like this, automatically on a policy that you get when you're 30, 40, 50, is a big deal, because you just don't know, we just don't know what the future is going to hold for us. We can take all the supplements, we can do all the exercising, we could do all the things we need to do for our health, but when it comes to certain things, we don't know. It's a roulette game, if you will. You can be a perfect health, and then you ever heard the saying, and it kind of sucks when people say it, but you ever heard the saying, "Man, not him, not her. They shouldn't have went. So and so should have went first because they ain't living right." But we don't get to choose.
Right.
We don't get to choose the day we come, and we don't get to choose the day we go. We only get to choose to do the things that we do in between, right? And
Right.
so that to me is a big seller. And here's the thing, this new rider is in addition to, they already had a rider that had some Alzheimer's benefits in it, underneath the
Critical
chronic
illness.
illness, under the
Okay.
chronic and critical illness. And now they're adding they're layering it up to make sure you're covered. And that's amazing.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So yeah, so there you have it. I wanted to make that distinction about uh the living benefits that are offered. Every insurance policy is definitely not the same just because it
No.
says insurance policy and just because it says, oh, happy birthday to your son, H. But just because they say it has living benefits does not mean that it has all those things covered.
Right.
And so definitely make sure that you understand. So those are the two new ones, right? The fertility one, that is super awesome. And the Alzheimer's and dementia things. But let's go back, right? If you were to, as you're there, you're talking about you're living your life. You have a wife or a husband, and you have children. The question for you to ask yourself: what would happen to my children, to my wife, to my husband? What would happen to my family if I became incapacitated and could not work? I didn't say die,
Right.
just if I became incapacitated and could not work. And that's the reason why you want to make sure that your life insurance has living benefits and has the right type of living benefits. Or has sufficient ones of them. So, yes, we agree that a terminal illness benefit is a living benefit. It is one. But remember that a terminal illness benefit typically means that you can accelerate a certain percentage of the face value amount of your insurance. You can accelerate it to get it if you are diagnosed with a terminal illness. And some states it's within 24 months, some states it's within 12 months. It all depends on the states. And also, depending on the company, the percentage that it would pay out.
Hmm.
And that brings me to think not just if it has living benefits, but if you have a good amount, really and truly a good amount. What difference does it make if you have just a $50,000 policy or a $30,000 policy with living benefits, but you have to be close to death in order to get it, and then even when you get it, you don't even have enough left even to bury you. So having the right amount of insurance for your situation is absolutely important. And a rule of thumb is 10 times your annual income. And you want to make sure that you can do that, because if you need to use these living benefits, um, such as the terminal illness benefit, you can really continue to, or seek treatment, or continue to live. Remember, your health insurance does not pay for living. It doesn't pay for your mortgage. It doesn't pay for your rent. So having this would help you to continue to live and focus more on getting better. Well, if it's terminal, you're probably not getting better, but there's that, right? So
Well,
you want to understand
mhm.
what what living benefit that the policy has, and make sure that you have what is suitable for you, what's best for you, right?
Yeah.
So so terminal illness I talked about. The next one I want to talk about is the critical illness or critical injury um, living benefit. And this is something you've heard us talk about before. And you'll hear us talk about it again, because we will stop talking about living benefits and life insurance when people stop dying without it. That's when we will stop, right? But the critical injury, critical illness benefit, things that would qualify are things like ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, aortographic surgery, aplastic anemia, blindness, cancer, cystic fibrosis, end stage renal failure. These things doesn't necessarily mean a death sentence, right? Heart attack, heart valve replacement, any major organ transplant. People still live real, great lives, even though they're suffering from these, but they may not be able to work maybe for the first 2 years that they're going through the treatment and things like this. Motor neuron disease, stroke, sudden cardiac arrest. I know that I have said things there that personally, where that people have, this has happened to people, coma, paralysis, severe burns, or traumatic brain injury. All of those things are covered under our critical illness and critical injury um, living benefit rider, right? So you don't just want to have a terminal illness one, if you can have critical illness and critical injury, right? You don't just want to do that. So definitely uh, make sure that you get your policy reviewed, see what you have. Yo, today I was talking to someone, and I said, she said to me that a friend of hers, or her brother's girlfriend or something like that, said that they already have life insurance. They're in their 60s, and she's saying that she had this life insurance since she was a child. Her mother bought it for her, like they paid like $1 a month. People, it's time to have that reviewed. It's probably a
You're
policy.
not a baby no more.
It's probably a $5,000 policy that cannot even pay for not a funeral. What's the other thing? A cremation. That cannot even pay for a cremation. It's time to have that reviewed. You change your cell phone every 2 years. Some of you every year, but you have the insurance policy from when you
When you
were a
were a
baby.
baby. Well, you know what? I want to tell you a little story, because you talked about terminal illness and you talked about critical illness. And so here's the deal. Think about that friend that recently posted that maybe they had a stroke. I promise you, if you're watching this live or watching a replay, at least half of the people that are on here that will watch it or watch the replay, you know someone who recently had a stroke for whatever the reason, or a heart attack. You know someone who's had cancer. And these are the types of things that are protected in the living benefits. I'll tell you a story of a friend. She was, going about her life in her 30s, no big deal, professional, had a high education degree, doctorate degree, doing her thing, whatever. She sat down with a financial professional, and it wasn't me at the time. I wasn't in it doing this part of the industry. I was in another part of the finance industry. And the person set her up did all these policies, did all her financial planning, did all this additional stuff. Well, fast forward 5 years later, she's diagnosed with breast cancer. She was just kind of putting stuff in place, listening to a financial professional like us who said, hey, these are the recommended things, do this, do this, do this, and this is a part of it, and here are the benefits. And so when she was diagnosed with it right at the beginning of the pandemic, she did not have to go back to work because she was able to accelerate the benefits on her policy, obtain the money to live, to get healed. She survived. She's doing amazing. And now she started a foundation, and she's not had to go back to work because she put that much coverage on herself that she was able to start a foundation. And now she runs a business supporting other women who've been affected by breast cancer. And that, my friend, is the power of real living benefits, is so that
Yes.
you can set yourself up without even knowing you need, not knowing what's in the future, putting yourself in a position to be, to win in the future, that we don't even know what it holds. And so that, my friend, is my story for the night. I'll have another one because I like to tell stories. But
What
that's
you
the story for that's my story, my first story for tonight.
and I'm sure people that are listening to us can tell. Listen, I have a very good friend in New York, and she had just turned 50 or 51 when she suffered. And she tells me, I can tell this story. I'm not going to call her name, but she tells me, tell people, tell me, tell them, use me, right? But imagine just turning 50, 51, and suffering from a brain aneurysm, right? And a stroke, and having to learn to walk again. And these things that we take for um we take for what is the word I'm trying to say, help me here, for granted.
Granted, sorry, I put myself on mute.
Yeah, these things that we take for granted, all of these things she had to learn again. And she was out of work for close to 2 years. And that's the power of living benefits. And sit down and talk to someone, because you might be one of the few lucky ones that may even have something for long term care, right? You may be
Mhm.
one of the few lucky ones that have something for long term care. Here's the problem: sometimes those things only pay to certain types of expenses. They may only pay for a nursing home. They may only pay, like, you couldn't use it however you want it. But what we're talking about is you having freedom and control with these living benefits to be able to pay for household expenses, so the kids can eat, so that the rent or the mortgage is paid, so that whatever else expenses that you need in the home can be taken care of. You can pay for adult daycare, or to have someone come into your home and take care of you. You can pay for home modifications. We don't even think about some of the things. You might not be able to use your home as you use it right now. Things may have to be modified. You can pay your regular bills, right? The bills that you were accumulating all along. If you do not know, health, lack of money for health insurance and for the things that we're talking about, is what causes, that is the number one cause of bankruptcy, when the
Mhm.
breadwinner loses a job due to illness. It's health, right? um Nursing home care, right? Or quality of life expenditures. You do not have to say how you're going to use that money. So it's absolutely important for you to make sure that you have that. So we talked about the terminal illness. Well, when we talked about fertility, if you missed it, scroll on back. We talked about Alzheimer's and dementia. We talked about critical illness and critical injury, and we still have another one, which is the chronic illness rider. All right, and Saran, you want to talk a little bit about how the chronic illness rider works? Oh, before I say that, a lot of times with the terminal illness and the critical injury or critical illness, you can accelerate. like a one-time amount. Like you can decide to take, 50%, 60%, 70, 80%. I think most of the companies go up to about 90%. Many of these companies who run around talking about, we have living benefits, they only pay a 50% upfront. Yes, it's discounted. We're not trying to hide anything from you, but it is way better than having nothing at all to cover you. So you can be able to take a big portion and then leave the rest maybe just for final expenses or something like that. With chronic in with the chronic illness rider, it works a little bit differently, and I'm going to have my colleague Saran talk about that.
So chronic illness is if a doctor certifies that for 90 days you can't do the activities of daily living. What are the activities of daily living? Now listen, this doesn't mean that you hire someone to do it, because some of us hire some people to do some of these things. But these are things that you just literally cannot do for yourself: bathing, eating, toileting, transferring, um, continence, holding your continence, and getting yourself dressed on your own. Those are considered chronic illnesses where you have to have assistance. You can't do any of those things. And these are the things that we take for granted. And it also includes things like cognitive impairment. And so that means that you may physically be able to, but you have a cognitive thing happening that's preventing you from being able to process and go through the steps of getting up and taking yourself to the restroom, bathing yourself, putting your clothes on, picking up the fork and feeding yourself, getting yourself from place to place. I don't mean in the car, I mean just walking from one place to another. And so that becomes a thing of, making sure that you have support for the activities of daily living. What we don't realize is that getting old and being ill is a big business, and it's not inexpensive to get the support that you need when you're the most vulnerable. And so being prepared and having funds available to make sure that you're taken care of in the event that it happens. Nobody is speaking anything into your life, right? As folks say, we don't want nothing to jump up on you. We want you to be prepared for everything. And that's why we thought it was important to come back to you again to remind you of the importance of the living benefits, especially because we got two new rocking hot off the presses, amazing living benefits to support you in this life while you're living the living part of life insurance.
Live your life
And
insurance.
the thing is that it's the living that we need the money for. And in our passing, that is the legacy portion where we're leaving to our families. But it's the living that we need everything that that is important to that we need everything that will give us support to be able to be comfortable while we're still here, while our spirits are still here in these human bodies having this experience. We need the support to make sure that we are taken care of. And so the chronic illness one becomes so important when you need support. And even if you're not, and a lot of times we think, oh, I don't need that, I got this. Everybody's Superman and Superwoman, right? But at the end of the day, you don't know if you're going to be Superman or Superwoman. You don't know if your loved ones around you are going to be Superman or Superwoman. And oh, by the way, if you do need that support, if you have a spouse or a partner or a family member or someone who's going to take care of you, having access to this income will support you being able to have someone come help you. Because as women, statistically, our incomes are interrupted because we become caregivers. Yeah. And so then our retirement funds are lower, our savings are lower, our ability to pay off our debt becomes diminished because we don't have the income coming in, because we typically become caregivers for our family members, either our elderly family members or someone else who needs us. Or even when we do have the blessing of becoming a parent, we come right on out that workforce for 5 or 6 years until those kids become school age. And so having things set up to where you have income available to you no matter what happens, that's a smart money move. I don't care what anybody says. It's not the, and not to, and Beyonce is my girl, but if you out here spending $1,000, $1,500, I mean, I think the tickets was like all the way through the roof. to go see Beyonce, I ain't knocking it because I'm trying to be in the place too. But if you don't have all these other things in place for your financial tools, I'm wondering if that's smart. That's a smart money move for you right now. Because I seen her live and she's amazing. And I saw her in a small venue. And I was like right there, like trying to be her friend from the stage because I was right there at the bottom. I was trying to see if I touched her, I could turn into Beyonce. It didn't work. So you got me. And I'm still good. But I'm saying putting your money there is not, it's not all good and it's not all bad, but reevaluate. I get it. We need to treat ourselves. But
Listen, Beyonce will entertain you, but we will educate you. So
and protect
listen,
you.
listen. I dragged my husband to a Beyonce concert. He told me he was never going back to another one. I had lots of fun. I was right there.
I went and it did not cost me $800. And that's the nosebleed season. When I tell you I was, because she has that particular show, she had 2 stages. I was front and center at the second stage. I was like, I was
well,
like,
my husband was upset because I wanted to be right there. I didn't want the seats. I wanted to be right there. And I paid a lot of money to go to it. And I don't blame people for wanting to do whatever. But like you said, also think about how much, what else, what things do you need to have in place, before you do that. And sometimes I can't help but, I don't know if the correct word is judge, but when I see people that are, spending, thousands of dollars to go see Beyonce, and those same people are saying, either I have life insurance at my work or my parents bought it for me when I was 2. I'm like, yeah, I'm judging.
Mama got a policy on you.
Huh?
I'm just saying. That's all you get. That's all you got.
Yep. Because and one of the things that annoy me a whole lot is that when we think about, and I shouldn't say annoy me because it's just training and education on these particular topics that has enabled me to be able to think that the way I'm thinking right now. So I'm not judging, right? I'm not judging. But the fact of the matter is nobody's going to get out of life alive. And when we're talking about life insurance, we are certainly not only talking about death. However, the primary reason or purpose for it was to provide for the people after when you are gone. And since we're not going to get out of life alive, why don't we use it to pass on that legacy that you're talking about? Why in our community we are not doing that? If we would do that, because a lot of the wealth that's passed down from the wealthy came from life insurance. It came from somebody else. And the wealthy people are buying life insurance. I don't know if you were on the other night, but this very same company that we're talking about issued a policy for $100 million on one individual. $100 million. So if you just think about what the premium would have to be for $100 million, right, of life insurance. So that's not the poor, that's not the middle class, that's the super duper 1% wealthy that's buying that. Why are they doing that? Because they understand the power, right? The benefits of using other people's money rather than just their own.
Well, and you know what? To that point, I'm actually about to drop a TikTok video about this. Rest in peace, Lisa Presley, Elvis Presley's daughter. She passed away earlier I was going to say this month, but this February, in January. She passed away, and the news said something like, "Oh, she owed $40 million, $4 million in debt, but she had $35 million in life insurance." So there's a disconnect. You want to, but the big headline was the $4 million in debt.
Right.
They put it in a little line. Oh, but she had $35 million in life insurance. So that means she had 30. So that means there's $31 million
Right. To pass
transferred
on.
into her family, to her children, and they still own Graceland and all the stuff around it. And all that money is already in a trust, which we've talked about in detail, how important it is to have that. She already had it in a trust set up for her family. She played no games with her paperwork.
Right.
Okay. And she
Right.
wasn't, and she was barely fit. She was in her early 50s. She was super young.
Yeah.
And so that's the power. And that didn't even have anything to do with living benefits.
That didn't have anything to do with
That's
living
just free
benefits.
game. Look, follow me on TikTok for more at Covered by Saran. I'm on there. But the thing is that you we have to think smarter about our money, and just get more strategic as strategic as we can, because at the end of the day, the big thing is, are you okay? Do you have what you need? Because if it's, whether it's an illness, whether it's uh, a disability, a challenge, a car accident. You can have a traumatic brain injury just from a car accident. Now, you could do it roller skating. I mean, it's just, it's just things, it's like these fragile little bodies we walking around in. Why aren't you protecting it? That's what I don't understand. They're so fragile. They look so tough, but they're fragile. You should protect it.
Just
And
and
those
the
are the
whole
things that really apologize. My apologies. But those are the things that really, really matter, is making sure you are okay. It's like rage quitting. Like, I had enough of this. Can you believe they passed me up again? I've had enough. I'm out of here. I'm going to go apply for 13 million other jobs and get out of here. Well, guess what? When you leave that job, that work insurance you thought you had don't exist no more. So get
That's
you from
right.
outside, so you don't have to worry about that when you out here quiet quitting and rage quitting. You already got everything you need set up to keep going. You just roll to the next job and keep rolling that money and putting it in and growing it and keep it moving.
You have control. I want to say good night, hello, good evening to my friend Sanita. We miss you, girl. We haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for joining us tonight. You must have gotten my message I sent earlier, but I'm glad that you're here. One of the things I want to quickly emphasize about the chronic illness, the unexpected element and event of life which can change your life for a way you're not. Yes, exactly, Sanina. But we mentioned earlier that chronic illness, if a doctor certifies that you are out of work for 90 days, depending on states, sometimes that's 180 days. Just want to put that out there so people don't go back and say, this is what they said. Listen,
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I got to interrupt because we don't tell enough stories. But let's say this: when you start thinking about brain injuries, how many of you are parents of sons who play football?
I was just going to
How
bring that
many
up
of
because we
you
all
have
looked at him.
kids playing from the wee pee wee leagues on up to middle school, on up to high school, to college? So before they go pro, you need to be protecting them, because that is a huge thing. You got kids, you got your daughters ice skating, gymnastics. These are the types of protections we have to put in place for our young people, not to stop their lives, but to protect them in case of an emergency. If we have a budding ballerina in our family, and it may not seem dangerous, but those feet and all this stuff going on with the toes, and you could get kicked in the head and that's a wrap. She says, say it louder. They take it for granted. Don't take this stuff for granted
Yeah.
that we're sharing with you. We're not just talking heads. We're trying to get you in a position to win prior to anything ever happening. That's right. Our kids are not invincible, because
Right.
and and we think they're invincible. Our pageant parents, I mean, all kinds of things happen at these pageants. If you're a cheer mom, oh my God, you got your daughter on top of the pyramid in cheer. And
Flying.
I'm not talking south side cheering. We don't do all those stunts. I'm talking about real cheer, like on top of the pyramid, jumping, flipping, do all those things come with an element of risk that we should be protecting our
Well,
loved ones for not from, because we can't control what's going to happen in our lives,
right.
but just protecting in the event that it happens. You
Well,
know,
look at we just looked at every one of us looked at a couple of weeks ago when the football player fell down. We're all looking and we were all stunned when it happened. Here is somebody that's healthy. Here's somebody that takes care of their body. Here's somebody that exercises. Here's somebody that probably eats right. Here's somebody, but it was just that moment of impact from an outside force. So like you said, we need to protect far because we can't control the from and when or any of those things, and protecting our children. And the great thing about it is that if you do this for your children from as early as 2 weeks old, they get these living benefits. They're protected should they become chronically or critically ill or terminally ill. They're protected.
yeah,
And these benefits for children are structured properly, are geared to last for life. So they will also have the protection of the fertility and the Alzheimer's and all these things, right? She said, it's sad to say we love our family, relatives, and we don't put systems in place or educate them in a way to protect them in the event that these things happen. And you're absolutely right. But I remember being young, we didn't think about those things, and we are more focused on the day to day living. We're focused on today. We focus on the now, and we forget that what we do now, what we do today, impacts what happens later. So we cannot just live for today, and I've seen a quote or something written somewhere that other communities plan for generations, 3 and 4 generations, and we plan for the next 3 Saturday nights or something like that. So and I don't like to put down anybody because I was there, right? But so it's not that sometimes we have to keep doing what we are doing right now, and that is to educate. And you can help us by sharing this live so that other people can hear this. Sometimes it's hard to talk to family about these things, but just hearing it from somebody else, it's now up. Now the conversation is out. Now the person doesn't have to decide, oh, you're only doing this because you're trying to get rid of me. You're trying to take me out.
and that's not the case, right? And so the big thing is to make sure that we understand the power of it in educating our families and our friends and our communities. And so with that, I mean, we're at like 9:24, 9:25, and we do try to keep it to an hour, but I want to just make sure that our viewers and our friends watching the replay, you understand this here. We are here to serve. We're here to educate and get you the things that you need. If you feel like there's a conversation that you'd like us to have with your family and friends, pull a couple of people together. We'll get on Zoom and we'll educate them too, one on one. 3, 4, 5 people, it's fine. The biggest thing is about getting this education into the right hands so people can make the right decisions for now and for the future, so that we can create real, add to generational wealth, add to whatever it is you're doing, and add the protections that we need. We don't have to work ourselves to the bones. We don't have to do those things. And so making sure that you plug into an appointment with Carmen or an appointment with me, or book a Zoom meeting for your family, so that we can give you this information. Take 20 minutes to really just run through a structured presentation so you understand it. And one of the things that we didn't drill down on a lot this time was cancer. And I always try to tell this story. And this story is, I worked at Verizon
Yes, we do.
for about 15 years. And gosh, I haven't worked there in probably, good Lord, 10, 11, 12 years, however long it's been. But at the time I was working there, I remember working in this one space, and there was a young lady who, she had cancer, and she was one of the support staff. She was one of the executive assistants for one of the VPs, and she worked at the front or whatever. And she would always go do her cancer treatments, and then she would come to work. And what happened was, one day I said, I stopped and I talked. I said, but didn't I talk to you yesterday? Didn't you say you were going to get treatment? She was like, yeah, because I didn't realize that's what she was doing. And I said, but why are you here? And she was like, I was like, not to be offensive. I said, but you know, look like you should be at home resting. You don't look good. And what happened was, she had run out of leave, even though as long as she had been there at the time we were working there. And
Wow.
they had great benefits. We had great leave programs. I mean, at the time we were there, the packages were amazing. So this is by no means a shot on Verizon, but because of her illness, she had used up
Use it up.
months and months of leave that she had had. And she was at the point where she couldn't afford to take any unpaid leave. And there really was nothing, there was no space, but she was like at the end of her treatments, and she just really was just trying to keep things together because she didn't have additional finances. She didn't have something like this that would pay her to help her in the event of something like this. And so the thing is to really just think about who you are and what space you're in, and what happens if, God forbid, something were to come out of nowhere, jump up on you, and you could work, but now you've run out of leave, you run out of short-term disability, you run out of long-term disability. If you add those two together, you're looking at maybe 6 to 9 months at 60% of your salary. Now what? What are you going to do? And that's what these living benefits do. They fill a huge gap in your financial life at a time when you already have a large amount of emotional stress that you shouldn't have, so that you could be using that energy to heal and focus on healing energy and healing yourself and bringing yourself back together. But Sanita had a really good question in the comments, if you want to read it and respond to it so everyone can hear.
Yes, Anita asked, do we review insurance plans? And yes, we definitely review insurance plans. And we share this all the time. We share the same. We do reviews, but sometimes Facebook and the different things, they kind of lower some of those things so everybody don't see them, which is reason why I'm so much in agreement with Saran that we can't talk about these things enough. And so make sure you join her on Monday when she will talk some more about the living benefits. Um, and secondly, she said maybe she can get together a few ladies and let us do a session with them. And we think that that is awesome. That is actually the one of the reasons that we do this, just so you know, that we can get together with you in a group, one-on-one. Out here we're giving general information, the information for you. Even in a group when we do it, that's probably still going to be general, but we need to meet with you, review what you have, see what are your goals, and make sure that those two are in alignment, and see what you need to make sure that you get to where you want to be. And I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it this time, because a lot of times you hear people talk about life insurance, and they tell you, buy term and invest the difference. And most of those term policies do not have the living benefits that we were talking about. But and I am not ashamed to say that I am here to help people, our community. I don't care who it helps, but specifically, I want to help our community. And if we continue it's almost like a self-centered thing, because it's like, so when you get to such a point, if you have invested the difference, you can now be self-insured. Basically, you can bury yourself. Where is the legacy? I will, Sunita. I'll give you a call tomorrow. But where is the legacy? How do we? It's almost as if this is designed in a way to keep us not passing forward generational, not passing forward wealth, so that we always have to start over. And I'm not ashamed to say that I am here to help to stop that. I am here to help us to move generational wealth from one generation to the next. At the time that we're doing something, it shouldn't be for ourselves. It really should be for the next generation, and that next generation is going to be preparing for the next generation. And if now we just have to start here, or we need to start with one generation back, so meaning people like me, we need to go to our parents. So if you have a healthy 75-year-old, a healthy 60 something year old, and they can qualify for these things, you want to meet with us and talk with us so that you can start putting some of those things in place. Even if you have to get together, pay the premiums on that person, and then it has, even if it's 10 of you have to pay the premiums. You get together, you pay the premiums, and when that person passes, you can pass along generational wealth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it anymore. I am not going to sugarcoat it anymore. Everybody else is doing it that way. We are not. Why? Because we are sitting here thinking about, oh, there's still people talking about it's a sin to buy life insurance because you're betting they're going to die. Guess what? They're going to die anyway. Every one of us will. We do not have an expiration date and we do not know when, but we all going to go. Okay. So that's my soapbox for today. Um, and we are at the top of the hour. And I just want to make sure that, I mean, I'm sure that you can see that we are very passionate about what we do. And if you want to do the same thing, if you, I want to know more about this, I want to know how I can help. I want to know how I can help in my community. Please book with us, millionaireLadiesMob.com, and we will show you what it is that you need to do to help the community. We're not going to say it's easy, but we know that if we can do it, you can too. I'm Carmen Bernard, and you can reach me at carmen10k.com.
I'm Saran Baker, and you can reach me at saran10k.com or at Covered by Saran on all platforms.
All righty. Good night. Thanks for joining us.